Right, so we knew this was on the horizon, but it still marks really big change for the game, for the formats, for everything going forward for Flesh and Blood by LSS. So finally, we have in wording the Blitz updates, the ending of Blitz, if you will. So prepare for the final Blitz beatdown with Skirmish Season 13. Skirmish is back from November 29th to December 14th, with Blitz taking center stage as the headlining format. This marks the last time Blitz will be included in seasonal organized play, so make sure to lock in your spot to celebrate the fast and frenzied format's final run. So, Blitz is done, right? Come next year, we will most ideally have Project Klloo, Silver Age, right? So, yeah, I know Blitz wasn't everyone's cup of tea. It sort of got a bit out of control with, the scope of the game, 20 life, with the power creep, or rather the breakpoints, if you will, of the stat values on certain cards, just led to, not the greatest of times. So to have that tapered off through Project Klloo or Silver Age is definitely a welcome change, right? That should also make it a bit more beginner friendly and also a little bit more comparable to going from Blitz to Classic Constructed, because they sort of became just different things altogether, right? How you play Blitz is definitely different to, how you play most Classic Constructed decks, right? So, yeah, although Blitz is being retired from organized play at skirmish level or higher, so gone across the board, stores will be able to run Blitz Armory events and Blitz on-demand events, right? Which is definitely nice, right? That's basically there for the little leeway until we get the, proper announcements of Project Klloo Silver Age being rotated in as XYZ, right? Which should come soon anyway, but I would imagine that Armory and on-demand events will be able to run Project Klloo and slash Silver Age. Or call it Silver Age because that's what they're calling it. I like Project Klloo a little bit more, but anyway, because I imagine that obviously stores, especially if they're, gunning for the more competitiveness, will want to run the formats that are going to be competitive. So, Blitz by itself doesn't really go anywhere now. Yeah, it can still be used as a way to onboard new players, but obviously Project Klloo, I've done it again. I like Project Klloo more because it's unique to Flesh and Blood, right? It centers around rares being blue, right? So I like Project Klloo. But anyway, so Silver Age is obviously then going to lead into proper competitive formats of Silver Age. So I would wholeheartedly imagine that stores would rather run that, right? As again, prep for their player, their community basis, than to run Blitz. So I imagine Blitz will just slowly and surely die off, which is a little bit sad because it is home to certain heroes, right? But yeah. Anyway, we encourage stores to continue running casual Blitz events if it best serves the needs of their community, which again, Silver Age will probably most likely just take over. It's better for onboarding new players, for teaching new players, and again, as practice for proper competitive events, right? But Skirmish Season 13 is the perfect opportunity to come together in the Flesh and Blood to give Blitz a proper send-off. So, who is game, right? This is still a competitive season, which means there are still points up for grab, even though this invalidates the current, Blitz, Living Legend, leaderboard, etc. I want to see Melody get some points. Now, it's not the ideal time because we used to have the really good draw engine, and yes, it was still a RNG roll, but it was definitely a lot more doable, right? But still, I'd love to, see some of the underdog heroes just scrape a few final points before it all goes away, right? Wouldn't that be cool? So I think I'm just going to shift and, regardless of how good it is, probably just take Melody. But yeah, so give Blitz a proper send-off, play who you want, right? But, it's still competitive. There's still some really good goodies up for grabs. But if you've got the stones, play one of the lower heroes, right? So Skirmish offers exciting yet low-stakes gameplay. Yeah, aggressive gameplay. New cold foil prize cards and a great stepping stone for newer players into competitive play, right? And then Skirmish Season 13 will be published in the coming weeks. The little prize packages, etc. But yeah, it's still going to be a fun time nonetheless. But again, that does mark the end of Blitz as a format. I'll be very curious to see how much of it still goes on because, mind you, for Skirmish, it was still a major part of it, right? Even with Living Legend being introduced, granted, probably up for a little bit more change now with Living Legend being pushed as a more and more competitive format, but Blitz was still like 2-1, yeah, in terms of the number of events being run. So Blitz was still the go-to choice for Skirmish over Living Legend. Granted, they both sort of creeped up there in sort of cost. Obviously, Living Legend still going to cost more than Blitz, but it will be nice to have Living Legend, expensive format, and then have Project Klloo, Silver Age, it's something a little bit cheaper. But again, this does invalidate the Living Legend leaderboard for Blitz. I imagine it'll just be a nice, clean slate start over, right? So every hero that has LL'd will have a chance to shine anew, right? And then again, we have all these underdog heroes, right? I mean, Gravy Bones can probably pick up some points. Is he a little too slow? Slash, he mills himself in Blitz. That might be the issue, right? But then you've got the Super Slam heroes. Max doesn't have any Blitz points? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that might be a better pick for me than Melody, but yeah, I'd love to see Melody get some points, or even Scurv, because, you know, even Cheyenne scraped through and got some, right? So, yeah. Overall, this will be the last time to play a few different heroes, right? So let's get into Project Blue, right? Go over that quickly. So I'm probably meant to use Icelander, right, as the backing up, because she's sort of the face of Silver Age. But you get Pirate Melody, right? She will be missed. But yeah, so Silver Age coming 2026, right? Basically the rebranding of Project Blue being the testing ground for it that was conducted in New Zealand. So yeah, definitely nice to see. It will be roped into upcoming events, right, to show it off more so, but then we wholeheartedly expect it to take Blitz's place in actual competitive formats, right? So it becoming one of the picks for your skirmish season and then being run at major events higher than skirmish as well definitely will make sense. So overall, what is Project Blue? Well, quite similar to Blitz, but, you know, again, it's a bit more of a restricted card pool to tone down the other power bursts of cards, right? So to try and make it a little bit more of a better back and forth, similar to Classic Constructed, given the fact that, again, you have that lower life pool. So Project Blue, 55 card pool, 40 card deck, max 2 copies, and then just rares and commons, including heroes, along with most likely an extensive ban list targeting cards like Sink Below, really anything that just offers, you know, a bit stronger of that base stat line. So in essence, think 1 for 3 with Go Again, or 1 for 4 without Go Again, so you still get the chip damage, but then no way to counter that through, again, card like a defense reaction, such as Sink Below. So overall, again, it should mean that the explosive turns won't exist as much as they did in, for instance, with Blitz, right? So overall, it should be a little bit better over time, right? And again, a lot better as a format to teach new players. Not to mention that, again, restricting it to rares and commons, even though we are finally getting some reprieve in terms of, you know, card accessibility and pricing, the lower rarity format just means that altogether is definitely a much better starting point for new players. So in terms of heroes, it does make me wonder, because digging through them, right, there was stuff like this with Dust Till Dawn, so Vincent was a rare, but then Prism Advent of Thrones is majestic. Granted, you don't really have much use to play her anyway, because all the figments are majestic as well, right, so there's no real applicability there, even if majestic heroes were, say, allowed in Project Blue, right, because you'd have her whole mechanic kind of gutted. But yeah, just an interesting little thing that I'd never noticed before, right? Vincent being a rare young hero and Prism Advent of Thrones being a majestic. But when it comes to heroes who are restricted, well, Cheyenne, Emperor, and Enigma are all legendary heroes currently. And, you know, who's to say that LSS don't reprint them in some fashion just to make them playable? Again, Cheyenne sort of just drops off completely because a lot of her card pool is majestic specs, right? That's where she gets a lot of her power from. Emperor, a bit more workable, right? Having the split wizard warrior card pool. Enigma as well, maybe a bit too strong with the chi cards and the amount of spectral shield tokens she can just pop off on and sort of negate what your opponent's trying to do, right? Because again, they're trying to strive for a bit healthier of a back and forth. But then some more interesting ones like Dorinthia Quicksilver Prodigy from the Classic Battles deck, right? So a bit of a easier Dorinthia to learn and play, but she herself is a majestic hero. And then we have, for instance, the Roundtable heroes, so Professor, Preference, and Melody are all majestic heroes, unfortunately. Professor, I don't know how he'd fare, right? Because again, you've got the powerhouse Evo cards being majestic, but you'd still be able to work in, you know, the rares and probably have a decent time with his tankiness, right? But then also Yoji and Genus as well. So yeah, not too many heroes restricted, but still, it's a bit unfortunate, right? Certain heroes not having a place, especially cool heroes like again, Cheyenne, Emperor, and Enigma. But, you know, maybe LSS have something planned in the works. But yeah, altogether, I think the majority of people are definitely in favor of Blitz going and being a little bit more tapered off, right, in the Silver Age, right? So yeah, definitely a welcome change, but still change nonetheless, right? What do you think? Let me know. Hope you enjoyed. Yeah.